In the Japanese folklore and legends, there exist beings that have supernatural abilities and mysterious phenomenon that surpasses human understanding, often referred to as yokai. They appeared in art as demons who in most parts resembles humans with horns and fangs, but eventually expanded into a wide range of creatures and monsters. Vampires and zombies, although not from the same culture, can still be referred to as yokai. Take demons from the Demon Slayer manga, being the results of a medicine that led to the grotesque twisting of a sick human being, giving him vampires-like qualities and attributes. And on the other hand, Zombieman is also a creature who has been profoundly altered by a genius scientist who granted him zombie-like abilities with maintaining his human side. Both Muzan and Zombieman gain supernatural physical prowess and can infinitely regenerate as long as they want to, leading Muzan eventually wanting to absorb Zombieman to attain his ability to walk in the sunlight, and Zombieman would want to kill Muzan for being a ruthless monster. In this video, we will analyze both of their abilities and stats to find out who would be the superior yokai between the two. But before that, do not forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell for more of these versus battle videos. Thank you. The Demon Slayer anime is currently one of the best visual stacked projects in the industry, created with such care and passion that every important fight or scene is heavily better than its manga's counterpart. This anime tells the story of a bunch of brave swordmen trying their absolute best to get rid of every demon in this world. This crucial task seems extremely difficult to accomplish, since not only they need to kill literally the strongest creature alive at that time, but also defeat the most elite 6 demons called the Upper Moons, surrounded and created by the same creature. Each of these demons are ranked strength-wise based on their numbers and has different sets of abilities that separates them from the other. However, they certainly all share the ability to regenerate in such a fast rate and would all ultimately die from the sunlight. Although there is another efficient way to kill a demon, which is by beheading or decapitating, except for 3 individuals who can bypass this weakness and wouldn't necessarily die from such a method. Akaza, Kokishibo, and obviously the demon king Kibutsuji Muzan can only be killed by the sunlight or by someone like Yurishi who has perfect mastery over the sun-breathing style. This, paired with the many abilities and hacks each demon possesses, mixed with their superiority in terms of physical strength, makes it almost impossible for the Demon Slayer Corp to accomplish their crucial task. Now, in regards of their scalings in terms of their physical capabilities, as I stated in my Yorichi vs Atomic Samurai's video, the Demon Slayer verse unfortunately lacks heavily in the speed and attack potency department. Literally the best AP feat in the verse being Doma's Hoarfrost Lady Bodhisattva, that should only be counted as a creation feat, was capped at city block level in terms of attack potency. You also have things like Gyotaro's Desperate Last Resort Explosion, destroying several houses that comes out only to large building level at best. You see, it's also important to note that both Gyotaro and Doma's casual punches doesn't really scale to a last resort attack in terms of attack potency or destructiveness. The anime also exaggerates the level of destructiveness, as Ducky seemed like she destroyed a whole town, but in fact only slashed several wooden houses. Now, despite the other demons not having enough showings that rivals Gyotaro and Doma's strength, based on the chain of scaling, it's only logical that some should operate on similar levels and others should be superior in that regard, with Muzan obviously being a tier or 2 stronger than the Upper Moons, possibly even higher. We have no choice but to assume he'd be around town level to generously city level in terms of attack potency, if not weakened and poisoned. This is obviously with accounting Doma's feat that should only be considered as a creation feat, nothing more, nothing less. As for speed, it is really a very controversial matter in the Demon Slayer community. You see, it all goes down to the question of whether characters like Shikido, Zenitsu, and Kaigaku can actually move as fast as lightning. Some say that Shikido's lightning doesn't come out from the sky, Kaigaku's lightning is black, and everything other than that are just special effects. But regardless of that, the second meta of speed actually relies on a calc that seems to be used more frequently, which is Muichiro slicing 10,000 killer fish in an instant. This, as I said in my previous video, was calced based on a baseless assumption that Muichiro actually sliced 5,000 times in that one instant. This attack was shown differently in the anime, being the product of an area of effect type of slash that would downgrade his speed significantly. But nonetheless, we'd still consider this as valid and say that most demons should operate at the massively hypersonic speed, with the sole exception of Muzan being massively hypersonic plus, as the fact that he fought multiple Hashira level fighters paired with his body being nerfed due to poison should raise his speed much higher. However, this is not all what the demons can offer. Someone like Kokishibo can use the transparent world that allows him to predict his opponent's next attack based on the circulation of blood. Nakime can control and manipulate the infinite castle structure and changes it however she pleases, confusing her opponents in the process, and Gyotaro's each strike capable of inflicting lethal poison paired with his ability to attack with his own blood. Each of these abilities are just minor applications that these demons can use, with Muzan's combat form generating wipes like tentacles, with possessing the fastest and most advanced regeneration out of all the demons. And with all of this being said, how would these vampire-like demons fare up against Zombieman?
お前はこれから私が殺す。
In the One Punch Man verse, there exists a staggering percentage of monsters and aliens who are capable of regenerating easily. As a matter of fact, many in the community mistakes that all monsters inherently possesses that kind of ability due to how many times it has been used in the series. But even though this ability can be a pressing problem to whoever is facing it, it also has been shown to have some sort of limit. There is always a strong attack that a monster with a healing factor can't seem to handle, well, except when it comes to the number 6 hero Zombieman. Zombieman has been described as undead or immortal. He simply can't die from any conventional means, which means no matter how strong any attack is, he'd eventually regenerate regardless. However, the speed of which he regenerates depends immensely on how strong the attack he took head on, since his healing factor functioned rapidly against pure blood, but when countered with Homeless Emperor's spherical beams, it sure took a bit of time. But nonetheless, what makes Zombieman a formidable foe in the One Punch Man verse is not only his ridiculous healing factor, but rather also his resilience and ability to endure and tolerate pain. Evidence of that is his fight with Carnage Kabuto in his Carnage mode that lasted for 7 days straight without any breaks. You see, Zombieman is so tolerant of pain that his brain has been described as not considering this fight as real danger, waiting for Carnage Kabuto to exhaust himself using his Carnage mode that lasts for 1 entire week, which gave him the opportunity after to effectively take him down. This is exactly why it was required for a monster like Homeless Emperor that possesses infinite firepower to face off against Zombieman, since logically speaking, somebody who just can't get tired from blasting beams would naturally be the weakness of somebody who regenerates infinitely. But fairly speaking, we've already seen another way that effectively held off or possibly even killed Zombieman in the manga, which is cosmic radiations. However, if that killed him or just knocked him out, we simply cannot know. Now, going straight to attack potency, Zombieman in chapter 101 specifically states that fighting is clearly not his specialty, which indicates that when it comes to physical capabilities, he'd probably be one of the weakest in the S-class heroes. However, the weakest S-class heroes can't possibly take down someone like Carnage Kabuto. Think about it this way. To kill Carnage Kabuto, even exhausted or not, one would eventually need to bypass that monster's durability. We're talking about the same monster who fought Darkshine for 15 minutes straight, withstood Genos' firepower and stops it with his actual breath. Meaning, the only possible explanation is that Zombieman should have some sort of a weapon that can bypass a dragon level monster's durability. This is substantiated when Zombieman himself brought out a weapon with Homeless Emperor that he didn't feel the need to use against a demon level monster, which means that when it comes to his strongest weapons, he should hurt beings like Carnage Kabuto, who is stated physical-wise to being the strongest monster we've seen up to that point in the data book. This should put him above Vaccine Man's city level plus Crater, and at least relative to Darkshine's AP that should be by the very least mountain level in terms of attack potency. It's also important to note that I'm not saying that Zombieman can casually hit with large city plus to mountain level of force at any given given time, but he'd at least be able to hurt a bean on that level with consecutive hits. Now, Speed on the other hand, as usual, has two different metas, whether you choose calcs or solely go by what happens in the manga with gathering different statements from each canon source. However, in both cases, it's important to know that Zombieman, despite being one of the weakest physical-wise in the S-class heroes, he is still extremely fast compared to the One Punch Man standards. Zombieman is seen reacting to and dodging Homeless Emperor's beams on multiple occasions, same beams that a number of S-class heroes alongside a monster like Ugly Führer has been struggling to keep up with. These individuals should be superior to the likes of the Deep Sea King, who can move at the higher end of the massively hypersonic speeds. But if you choose to ignore the calcs and solely go by the manga, then Atomic Samurai and Genos has been seen reacting to lasers that are composed of light, Awakened Cockroach claims he can react at the speed of light, and someone like Lightning Max has been stated to kick at the speed of lightning in the databook. Most of the low to mid S-class heroes should be relative or at least on that tier of speed, which makes Zombieman operate from massively hypersonic plus to possibly light speed level. Now, Zombieman is currently undergoing a training that may increase his physical prowess to a much higher level, trying to remove his limiter under Genius's supervision, and we still don't know what happens with that process. And with all of this being said, can Zombieman defeat the demons of the Demon Slayer manga? Now, when it comes to Zombieman matching up against the Demon Slayer demons, it's really hard to refute the fact that he really has all what it takes to handle and pack up the upper moons one by one. Each individually should scale from building level plus to generously city block in terms of attack potency, measurements that the likes of Jet Nice Guy and Spring Mustachio can certainly reach. In contrast to Zombieman, who has been shown consistently damaging and killing much higher level beams in terms of durability and attack potency, and can withstand punishments from a much higher caliber. Generally speaking, Zombieman should have prior knowledge on the general demon's flaws, such as decapitating and getting exposed to the sunlight, and furthermore, his investigation and spying specialty could also lend him more data on each of the upper moon's additional abilities, as his whole style heavily depends on analyzing and discovering points of strength and weaknesses before or during the fight. Now, to be fair, some of the upper moons should also press Zombieman with abilities he might not have the chance to gather prior to their fights, such as Nakime confusing him with her Infinity Castle's manipulation, and Gyoko's troublesome ability to transmute anything he touches into fishes, which would be an instant win con if you believe he can instantly transform him, as it actually falls under the no limit fallacy. In simple terms, one could also argue that Gyotaro's poison can also eventually take down Zombieman, since cosmic radiation was more than enough to get the job done, but Gyotaro's poison doesn't even begin to compare to cosmic radiations that directly attacks one's DNA, altering their ability to regenerate, outscaling Zombieman's immortality. Conversely, Tengen was not only able to withstand and tolerate that poison for a great period of time, but was also capable of restarting his heart to slow down his blood circulation, things that Zombieman can not only do due to his resilience and ability to tolerate pain, but also vastly supersedes it in every regard due to his healing factor, which leaves Nakime's one-trick pony that could be simply handled by someone who can analyze her patterns and strategizes a way to overcome her ability, especially when possessing much higher physical stats. This ultimately means that in a 1v1 scenario, Zombieman more than likely has the means to deal with every single ability that these characters can throw at him. Now, with him being also capable of decapitating every single demon and generously has the means to vastly cripple the upper moons individually, how would he stack up in terms of speed? You see, when accounting for Muchiro's calc that places him at massively hypersonic speeds, even though I generally don't really agree with this, you could still apply it to most of the upper moons for showcasing relativity to most of the Hashiras, with Koki Shibo displaying higher tiers of speed, blitzing even the likes of Muchiro, and fighting literally the two strongest Hashiras in the verse. I'd say that he'd be arguably the only demon that should be on the high ends of the massively hypersonic speeds. However, Zombieman on the other hand, in literally both spectrums, can be relative, react and fight against beings who supersedes that types of speed. Without any room of ambiguity and contradiction, none of the demons has any functional way to deal with Zombieman's regeneration, giving them a taste of their own medicine. Their logical first initial thought is to behead him or decapitate him, only to find out he clearly doesn't have such a weakness. However, for him, the case would be extremely easy. Even if most of them, let's say, somehow develops the ability to stay alive even after decapitating, then Zombieman is literally designed to fight for 7 days straight and possibly even more. Withstanding and fighting from nightfall to dawn is literally something that he does on a regular basis, which means he'd certainly be capable of keeping any of the upper moon demons busy until they get burnt by the sunlight, which ultimately means that none of them really has any means to deal with him in any shape or form. Now, what about the Demon King Kibitsuji Muzan? Is obviously going to be a different case, since he should vastly outscale all of the other demons. You see, even when generously granting him city level of AP, considering he isn't weakened or poisoned, it would still be something that Zombieman could handle with no difficulties whatsoever. We're talking about the same individual that brought down Carnage Kabuto in 7 days, a dragon level monster that can keep up with Darkshine for 15 minutes. Someone that vastly outscales anything provided in the Demon Slayer verse. What's crazy about this is that Zombieman's brain didn't even consider this fight as real danger, implying that he'd eventually would always regenerate even from heavy hits from Carnage Kabuto, which means that no attack from even Muzan himself would be able to slow down Zombieman's regeneration or pose any level of threat whatsoever. Zombieman would also be able to heavily damage Muzan, whether it's with his axe or his other magnified sets of weapons, rendering him capable of keeping him busy until dawn to effectively take him down. Now, when it comes to the speed department, Muzan and Zombieman should be relative in that regard, and even if you wanna argue that Muzan is slightly superior if you only wanna include the calc spectrum of speed, it would certainly be nothing pressing to Zombieman, since he's really accustomed to fighting beings who are stronger and much faster than him. He always utilizes cunning means and takes advantage of his own immortality to surprise or counterattack to always have an edge. Strictly speaking, Muzan, same as the others, doesn't really have any functional way to kill Zombieman. His only choice is to catch him and maybe overpowerly consume him, or ultimately just finds a way to hurt him and run away before the sunrise. The former wouldn't be a concrete option, since Zombieman in terms of attack potency should be able to overpower him. And even if Muzan runs away, Zombieman is a detective who would search for Muzan for the rest of his life, and since now he knows how Muzan fights, he'd make sure to come up with an effective plan for him not to be able to run away the next time, making Zombieman obviously the more superior yokai between the two, and this fight is obviously not close. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'm really sorry for the lack of uploads these days. I'm very sick, if you can tell by my voice, and until next time, please take good care. Don't forget to join the Discord server.